this is how to sow and grow pumpkins and squash. Now this is a fantastic, really fun crop to grow, and it's really pretty easy, and they're going to produce a lot of food for you to be able to store through winter. Now pumpkins and squash seem to come in every colour of the rainbow in all manner of interesting shapes and sizes, down from something about the size of an apple all the way up to giant competition strain ones. But whichever one you're growing, the sowing method is the same. Now this is a really fast growing plant, so you do not want to be starting these too early. You want to be sowing them around about a month before you want to plant them out, because these plants are going to get big fast. So you sow them too early and you're going to end up with a massive plant and nowhere to store it. Now because these grow fast, I like to start them in a slightly larger pot, just to buy myself a little bit of time before I have to pot it up to a larger size. So fill a pot with compost to just around 1 centimetre below the surface. Give it a tap to get rid of any air pockets in there. Now I sow 2 seeds per pot. Generally, you will find that you get 100% germination on squash and pumpkins. They're really pretty reliable. But by adding 2 seeds to the pot, you're just kind of guaranteeing that you get 100% germination in every pot you sow. Now you want to sow pumpkin seeds on their side. If you sow them on their end, you can find that they rot in the soil before they get a chance to germinate. So I sow my 2 seeds a little bit of a distance apart on either side of the pot. And you're pushing them down about to the 2nd knuckle of your finger, so relatively deep. Now the reason I sow them a little bit of a distance apart is so that I have the option, if both seedlings germinate, I can gently tease out the 2nd seedling and repot it in its own pot, and I've got a whole nother plant. You don't have to do this, you can just remove it and stick it in the compost heap, but it's just nice to have the option. So once you've got your seeds in the pot, just sprinkle a little bit of extra compost on the top to make sure they're nicely covered. Give it a water. Now, if when you're propagating your pumpkin and squash, it's not terribly warm outside, you might want to supplement with a little bit of extra heat. For instance, starting them inside the house and starting them on a heat mat or a heated propagator. And then once they're up, keep an eye on them because they're going to grow fast. So you very quickly find that they will outgrow their pots. The way to keep an eye on that is look at the holes in the bottom of the pot. When you start to see roots appearing out of those drainage holes, the plant is telling you it's getting too big for this pot and it's time to move it up in size. And then keep potting it up until it's ready to plant out in its final position. You want to be planting pumpkins and squash outside after all risk of frost has passed, because frost will kill them. Now these are very hungry plants, so you want to be planting them in a position where they've got quite a lot of nutrition in the soil. And if necessary, you can put a little bit of extra compost in kind of a pile where you plant them to make sure that they're really well fed at the time. And when choosing your position to plant them, just bear in mind these plants get big, and I mean really big. A happy pumpkin plant can sprawl for meters in every direction. So it can be a great way to use up excess space in the garden. But if you're growing smaller varieties, you may want to try growing them vertically. They'll climb really well, so they're a great choice for putting up and over trellises, and they work really well on arches and tunnels, and it looks fantastic with all the fruit hanging down inside the arch. Now you're going to want to leave your pumpkins and squash on the plant for as long as possible. You just want to make sure that you harvest them before any frost comes, because frost could damage the fruit. And then for the longest storage time, you want to cure them as well. Once you pick them off the plant, put them in a kind of sunny position where those skins can harden. That's what curing is, hardening of the skins, and it gives you that bit of extra storage time. And when it comes to storing pumpkins, they can last for a really long time. Certain varieties can last over a year in storage when stored correctly. You're basically aiming to store them in a cool, dry, dark position. And you want it to be rodent-free as well, because rats and mice are going to love nibbling away on that if they get the chance. So if you want to try growing some of the more interesting pumpkins and squash available, why don't you check out our seed range on shegrowsveg.com.